Welcome everyone. My name is Mary Mills and I'm going to be your trainer for today. We're going to be discussing the final ICH GCP E6R2, specifically the changes that impact sponsors and CROs. So every now and then I throw in just a little bit of something from the investigators because there's a little bit of overlap. So for our learning objectives, you at the end of this course should be able to identify 3 changes that impact sponsors and CROs and individual roles. Number 2, you should be able to explain the impact of the revisions on clinical trial conduct and organizational practices. And you should be able to discuss opportunities for implementing the revised guideline within your organization and within your practice. So let's first just kind of think about ICH E6 and this addendum. So it's kind of been a long time coming. The original ICH guidance was published back in 1996, over 20 years ago. And I think for those of you who have been in the business for a while or have been practicing or working within clinical research, you realize that we have made a lot of changes. I was a coordinator back in the late 80s, and back then I actually worked on the trial, oh this is so bad that I'm going to tell you this, that had the first RDC, we call it remote data capture system back in the day. And so since then, you know, most of the trials back then were paper-based, so we've just had huge leaps and bounds with technology. And we've also improved our processes. We have lots of processes. So process and technology has just grown tremendously and at warp speed compared to 1996. So I think that you can probably see why there would be so many changes. So let's just talk about what the leaders of ICH basically said over the last 22 years. They stated that one of the main drivers for the change and the update was concerns over quality from submissions. The regulatory agencies felt like that sponsors and IND holders were not being 100% honest and transparent, and there was a lack of trust in their statements, particularly when it came to audits. So, you know, don't state a problem unless you have a way to fix it. So over the last 8-9 years, the ICH community started looking at all the technology available, all the processes they hear about, and they looked at how people were working their processes, and they decided that, you know, they wanted quality defined right up front. That's where we get the term quality by design when we're talking about our protocols. Don't define your quality just in your clinical operations group. Don't define it over in your data management group. Don't define it in your regulatory group and your IMP with your GMP, but be very transparent up front. Come together, look at how you've developed your protocol and your processes, and define that quality up front. Quality by design. Tell us what your quality is going to be. Determine up front what your risks are going to be. Work together and have a plan so that when you submit, you can tell us if you deviated. You can tell us what the quality of your trial was. Quality by design, when you're talking about a protocol or a monitoring plan, you probably also heard that discussed or termed as fit for purpose.